Linda, can you tell me about Peter Masters? Because I remember him so clearly.
He was my uncle. He was a really gentle soul. Hard worker. Loved his wife. Loved walking. Didn't say much about his job, but they didn't then, did they? And they had an hour for lunch every day, and there was the hooter would go off, I suppose, and he would walk home, and my Auntie Phyllis would have a roast dinner there waiting for him, and he'd eat a roast dinner every lunchtime and then go back to work. I don't know how they managed it in those days.
And he would have worked at Bars and Portland.
He did, yeah. He worked the mills, as they called it. Worked down the mills as a stonemason. As a child, I used to go to the school. The railway line was in the way, so you couldn't, where the doctor's surgery is, you couldn't go up that way. You had to go up Bloomfield Terrace over the railway bridge, around the other side. And then when we used to come home from school, because I lived down Wakeham, we used to come out of the school over the railway bridge, down, and then literally walk through, not the actual workshops, but you used to just walk through, and the quarrymen didn't seem to mind at all. All these kids traipsing through, bypass this building, and there was activity going on everywhere. You knew that you weren't allowed in the actual workshops, so we just bypassed all them.
Amazing. So you had your own route to school and back in?
Yeah, sometimes we'd go that way to school, all sorts of different ways, but yeah.
I love that about Portland, because the routes were kind of made through the working of stone, weren't they? And so people found their own routes into places. The kids did to school.
We used to climb down. Onto the railway. The railway line wasn't there, but we used to climb down. God knows how, and then climb up the stacks the other side. There were stacks where the new houses are now, where the masonry works used to be. Just down from there was stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of stone. They used to go down and climb up the stacks the other side, make dens in all the stacks as well. So much stone ready, and nobody ever stopped you walking through them ever.
No, that's really nice. So the working lives were kind of connected to the people that lived with it too. The families, or they were really connected, I think.
But everybody knew who you were anyway, so you never did anything actually wrong. You'd never break the stone or anything, because people knew who you belonged to. Yeah. Well, his dad worked there as well. He was a mason. Yeah. And 3 of his brothers. Yeah. And they were all working in the same place. Right. One wasn't a mason. He had difficulties, so he just worked. He would have been the fetcher and carrier, but yeah. So they all trained down there. Yeah. But he worked. He and 2 of his brothers worked there all their lives, and my grandfather worked there all his life as well. Right. In fact, he died in the workshop. He died in the mill. My grandfather on his 61st birthday. And they had to carry, the 4 brothers carried him home.
That's incredible history going way back. They must have been at the start of it. The start of the masonry on Portland.
My grandfather he was born in 1887. So he would have been working there, right from the start. Because he was a mason, they were all.
Would that be before the railways then? 1887?
No, they came in 1865.
Bill Milverton, who's a lime kiln worker, I often used to see him standing over there just staring down, and I'd wonder what he was looking at. And he must have remembered it. So a lot of people would have been in such a thriving industry, it was like working the island, and then suddenly it all stopping.
Yeah, the noise is gone. Yeah. I mean, I can still picture just standing at the top of the slope that went down into the works, and you would hear it, you'd hear. And then there was the other road went into the newer bit was this bit to the left, there was a road that went into this works here. I don't know what went on there as well, but yeah, you could hear it all because our school was just.
So when I spoke to Stutesbury, you know, the 3 generations, Richard and Richard.
Why not use the same? Why not keep the same name?
They talked about, you know, having the whole of Wakeham having about 1,000 quarrymen living along there. So it was really a working road. It was built by, you know, the offcuts of stone and people taking it home and possibly building.
That's by the house I was born in, down Wakeham, was actually made of offcuts of stone because it used to be the entrance to a farm. And then somebody in 60 something decided actually you could make a house there. So the 2 walls either side are just the original houses, and the rest of it was built up out of whatever was there. And it's a very fine looking house.
Probably before your time in Skylark, we were talking about the sounds of the working. I just wondered whether you remember them, you know, working the stone, because Skylark talked about the quarry bells. You remembered the people splitting the stone by hand, you know, so I suppose each quarry had a different resonance, and that would be before your time.
I don't remember.
That would be like hand tools, you know, because you were at the time with the machines, because that's when, you know, people were cutting.
I remember I remember the cranes, and they would move. You know, the cranes would move from here, there, and everywhere.
Really?
Because growing up at where I grew up by Bumpers Lane, I mean, our playground was the quarry, but they were worked. They were finished. A lot of them. I'm trying to think. They'd finished what I would call. I don't know what you call it. The big.
Whitbed, the stones.
The big square. You know, they'd work them. They'd have a rough size. When they stack them up. That was finished, and then they started to do other quarrying afterwards. Yeah, like I would call that old-fashioned quarrying, where they would. It was the back of Wakeham that went all the way up to Moorfield Road. All that was finished. That I remember, and then they would start doing stuff to it. So they would have portable crushers that they would take to different places, and then they, you know, obviously work the crushers, and then they would have silos of different grades, I suppose, of crushed stone that the lorries would back into. You know, pull the lever and what have you. Yeah, they still have that. They still have that, but it'd be interesting at the back of Bumpers Lane, because you would have been near. I think Ralph called it Moonlight, because that's where the moon rises, down in the East Cliff. So I just wondered.
I thought Moonlight was on the back of Grove.
Is it?
Grove Road.
Yeah. But it was all one big quarry that connected
But was the area...
Shepherd's, we talked about Shepherd's Dinner, didn't we? Shepherd's. At the moment, that's where they're working. But, you know, last time we met, we talked about that, didn't we? And that's quite interesting, because that's Shepherd's... Albie called it Shepherd's Dinner, didn't he? What do I have called Shepherd's Dinner?
Shepherd's Dinner I think is the cliff itself. But the pathway down from the cliff, not the zigzag path, there's another zigzag path that goes from the cliff, and the path, so there's the cliff, and the pathway runs to the east of it, I suppose, and runs down, and then eventually goes down, and then zigzags back. And that was Shepherd's Dinner, not some people called the zigzag Shepherd's Dinner, but that was Shepherd's Dinner. So that area there, I suppose, both sides probably. So but that's what I mean about the old quarry. The old-fashioned quarry, if you like, which would have been hand tools, was finished when I was growing up. And then they started to have either better methods or more uses for stone, for crushed stone, because they'd used the best. They'd used the whitbed already, and they were just using whatever was left.
Mm.
Because I remember they opened the quarry up again and made a bigger hole from the Wakeham end, which connected up to this quarry they're now using, and they're now going further north.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was opened up again, and they had the big, the huge road going in and round where somebody actually died. The vehicle fell off and they died back in the 80s. When you come out of, if you go up Bumpers Lane, the quarry started probably. There used to be a weighbridge with Fred. We used to call it Fred, the face.
Yeah.
And the quarry was up to where the field barrier is now, where the field boundary is now. That was all a relatively deep quarry, not as deep as the one at the Grove, but that was all worked, definitely. Stacks of stone in there.